Welcome back to the Gyrl podcast. All right, I am excited to welcome Whitney to the show. Welcome, Whitney.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, we are going to kick off by having Whitney tell those listening or watching who you are and what you do.
Awesome. So, I'm a performance coach for women. And typically, I get the question, what exactly is a performance coach? I think
Mhm.
of it as like a goal coach, right? So, I'm helping you find more clarity and find the path forward and giving you really practical ways to get there.
Awesome. I love that, Whitney. So let's just take one step further and talk about the types of clients that you work with.
Yeah. So typically I'm working with women entrepreneurs. That would be sort of the majority of my business, supporting women entrepreneurs that have already sort of hit six figures in their business, but know that they're capable of doing more. So typically they come to me when they're at a bit of a plateau, either a sales plateau or what I like to call a passion plateau, right? Where you've grown your business to a point and then you're like, is this it? Am I still excited about this? And so it's all about like getting people excited again about life and business and reaching their next goal. And I also work with women executives as well. So those are sort of on
Mhm.
the case by case basis too.
Oh, okay, awesome. I love that because I think it's important. A lot of times, especially when you're a business owner and you have success, and it's almost like I like to equate it to sometimes what happens to us when we're on like weight loss journeys.
Mm,
Sometimes you're doing the things and you're like, and it's working and you're dropping weight, and then you hit this like plateau where
yeah,
it's like you need to figure out a different routine for the workout so that because your body's just accustomed to it. So it's like, this is what we do all the time. And I think it's often looked at as like a bad thing, but I like the way that your approach, especially with business, it's like, let me help you find the passion again.
hmm,
It's like you're helping people get excited again about the thing that they love.
yeah. That's exactly it. Because so much of the work that I do is around mindset. So if
Mhm,
we're not excited about something, it ain't
mhm.
happening.
Yeah.
Right? It does not matter. I could give you the best strategy in the world. We could map things out for days. You could know logically, I can do this. But if
Mhm.
you're not excited about it, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think this is really where like I ask people to reflect and we build, what is the best year yet? What is the best, offer in their business? What's something that they're going to be so excited about that they just jump out of bed and can't stop talking about, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that is important. And I think I read as I was doing some research on you and preparing that you help your clients to leap into their highest potential, own their full power, which I think is so key. Like you said, not only do you have to be excited about what you're doing, but you have to be accountable and you have to own like that. I can do this. But then I love that you said, and they can build a life beyond their wildest dreams.
Yeah.
Like that is just so that I love hearing that because I think a lot of times people think we can, but we really think that we can't. And so it's like the combination, like you said, of like the mindset work that you do, that you help women to be able to realize this dream and bring it to life. But let's just say someone's coming to you, right? And they're like, this, okay, Whitney, I'm on board. I want to do this. Like, what does the process to start look like?
Yeah. Great questions. And I could not agree with you more about, having some of those key fundamentals in place. Because so often we think that it's going to look harder than it actually does. Like we're sort of conditioned to think, oh, it has to be this way and I have to hustle and I have to whatever.
Mhm.
Right. And I tell this very intentionally because a lot of what I do when we start is visualizing like, what does this best year yet look like?
Mhm.
Right? And really going big. How much money do you want to make? How much do you want to work? Forget about all of the rules that you've been playing by or what somebody else says you have to do. Like, let's start from our goal. What is it that we want to create? And then typically what I'm doing is I'm asking them to multiply that goal, which sounds
Mm.
really scary for people, right? Because they're like, this is not possible. I've only done, my business has only made 200,000 on my best year, and I was hustling and I was this and I was that. And I'm like, yeah, but we're not going to do it that way, you know?
Mhm.
And so I'm often asking them, like, if we had to double your income or triple your income or hit some wild goal, what would we do? Doesn't mean
Mhm.
we have to do everything, but what could we do? And from that exploration, what I find is we sort of release these beliefs from the past of what's possible, and our brains start thinking about more creative solutions. How do I get
Mhm.
there faster? Well, I guess I could do this, and those little inspired hits of action start coming to people, start coming to the
Mhm.
conversation. Then the next thing I like to do is I like to take away some of your time. So
Mm.
again, it sounds very counterproductive, right? Like I'm going to ask you to work less, but what we're doing is we're actually adding in more constraints so that the time that you have is more effective time, right?
Mhm.
It is intentionally using that time versus
Mhm.
this belief that like, oh, I work 24/7 as an entrepreneur. That's junk. I want every woman, every person to get away from this belief that it
Mhm.
needs to be 24/7 hustle, right?
Mhm.
So I take away some of that time. And then the third piece that I really like to work on is like being fabulous. How do we bring more joy in? How do we
Mhm.
bring in, like you look so fabulous on this show today. Like, how do we bring in those hits of things that like make you feel great?
Mhm.
Having lipstick, having time to do your hair, having time to like wake up in the morning and enjoy, having a wellness routine,
Mhm.
um, meeting up with girlfriends or family. Those are all really fabulous things. And I think as
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, we put our business first and everything else happens around it. And my approach is totally different.
Yeah. I love that because it feels very balanced.
Yeah.
And I think, and to your point, your earlier point, I couldn't agree more. It's like the hustle culture, like, oh, you've got to be on, you got to be grinding all the time, or you're not pursuing entrepreneurship if you're not like up all night or, up
Yes.
all day. And I work on the weekends and all these things. And it's like, I'm so glad that we're getting, or we're trying to transition away from that mindset because
Mhm.
it's like you can do both, you can be successful and then also find time for yourself. And I like the fabulous things, like finding the thing, doing the things that brings you joy. Because I mean, like for me, like I'm still a workingpreneur. So I have a full-time job. And at one point I was working like, oh, I get off that job, and then I work on Glow Up Girl. And it was the
Mhm.
same process. And after a while I was getting burned out. And as much as I like really love this part of my life, the Glow Up Girl sounds like, but I can't be like doing this like every night. So I had to set like certain days after work when I do my business work. And then there's a day of the weekend. So if it's going to
Mhm.
be like half day on Saturday, it's never going to be. So if it's Sunday, it might be a few hours, but it's never going to be like all day Sunday because that's like family time.
Mhm.
And but I had to like put those rules into play. And also, like you said, I like being intentional with your time and giving yourself, so I feel like now, like I give myself those days and then I have a list of things. Like, here are the things I want to accomplish this week for the business. And I have to do it in that time. And it's like, and now I feel so much better because at one point, my husband would see me like log off one job and then I get on the other job
Yes.
and then I'd be like just taking like a break to come cook dinner really quickly, like gobble my food and then I'd run back in the office. And I was like, well, that's not fair because I'm not giving, I'm not spending time with him, I'm not spending time with my puppy. So I think that's important. And I'm glad that you are helping people to transition away from that mindset.
Absolutely. And, I think you used a word in there called balance,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
balance, I find, is something that people have wild interpretations about. It's like, what
Yeah.
is balance? Because sometimes we think balance needs to be everything in equal parts,
Right. Yeah.
and that's
No.
not true.
Mm-mm.
right? And so one of the words that I have really latched onto in this last year, instead of using balance, I talk about harmony. How do I
Mm.
find harmony in
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
areas of my life? Because that to me sounds like what you found is like, what is that right balance or harmony between
Mhm.
family time, working on my business and that sort of soul work, and
Mhm.
then continuing to work.
Yeah, yeah. I think I like that, because I think it's important and it looks different for everybody.
Mhm.
Like, that not going to be the same. That works for Whitney. It's not going
Yes.
to work for Kyra, and it's not going to work for the other five people. So it's about you finding what works best for you. And then if you have a partner, significant other, family, whatever, friends, then it's finding what allows for you to have time for them, what has time for your interests
Mm.
and hobbies, because you don't want to cut that out. Because I know, I'll say, like, I just recently got back into, and I'm really so happy about it. So before the pandemic, I had a standing every 2 week like nail salon appointment. I
Yeah.
was getting, it was not missed. And then, of course, then when the pandemic happened, then I started working from home. And then I was like, no, I mean, like that, it fell to the like bottom. Cause it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not like out all the time. And I mean, I suck at like painting my own nails. So I'm
Yeah.
not a person that can do all that. And I remember like, and so then I had to start traveling for my job. So I have to go up to like New York, maybe like about every 2 months or whatever. And so I was like, oh, I probably should do something. My nails look terrible. And so I was talking to my sister maybe like a few months ago, and I was just telling her, I was like, I don't know. It's like I almost don't feel like myself. Like my hair is done, but like I don't, and I was like, but I want to get my nails done, but then I sort of feel bad because it's like I don't work like I'm not out every day. So it's like, I don't know why. And she was just like, no, you need to do this for yourself. Like this is something you should
Mhm.
do for yourself. And then I started going back and I'm like, yes, I look forward to that appointment. And
Yes.
and it just gives me like a break and I get to like relax while somebody offers me self-care. And it's just the nicest thing.
It's also something beautiful to look at every day. I'm a nail
Yes.
girly too, so I get it. But it's one of those things where you're like, like
Yeah.
feeling yourself.
Yes.
And I just think we don't spend enough time like surrounding ourselves with beautiful things. We
Yeah.
don't spend enough time like, giving ourselves the time and care and attention that
Mhm.
we want to. We sort of like, especially as women, this is something I see over and over again. We give and give and give to everybody else. And then when it comes to us, we're like, okay, let's brush that hair, let's wash our face, like, and then we're complete. That's good enough for us today, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, like it's okay. I can do,
Yeah.
oh, I don't need this. And it's just like, no. So I love that, like finding and doing small things for yourself. Like
Mm.
I bought myself a new office chair a week ago. It is
Mm.
pink and it's fabulous. And it's like that, well, on TikTok they call it the crisscross chair. But I absolutely love my new chair and I'm so excited about it. And it's like, see, that's what I'm talking about. Getting back to the little things that make me happy and bring me joy. And I've been spinning around in this chair posing for like the last week.
Oh, I love it. But that just brings a totally different energy to whatever work you're doing.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So while we're talking about confidence, so let's talk about the part, it plays a large part in us for women, for anyone, but we're women. We're talking about women today. It plays a really big part in being able to pursue our dreams. So, what are some of your tips on building inner confidence?
Ooh, I love this. So often I talk about we have that inner critic,
Yes.
and then we have the possibility to have an inner champion.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
those are terms that I love for people to adopt. So when we're thinking about that inner critic, we know what that voice says. It says, who
Mm-hmm.
are you to think that this? Are you
Mm-hmm.
really wearing that? What do you think? Da da da. And it's awful,
Yeah.
And so I always am asking people to, think, to notice what that inner critic is saying to them around a particular topic. So let's say it could be around how they show up in their business. So thinking about the common things that this inner critic attacks, and then we just make note of them. Okay, yep, okay, you think this, you think that, whatever. And we're capturing that. We're going through and we're asking, we're sort of interrogating those thoughts, right?
Mhm.
Is that true? Is it true that I'm not good at what I do? No, that's not true. It's complete BS, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, what is the thought that I can replace it with? Or what's the evidence that I have in support of me? Right. So, it
Mhm.
might be, well, every client I have has an exceptional year and they're happy and thriving. Okay. That doesn't sound like you're BS at your job, you know?
Mhm.
So it's coming up with what some of those phrases are that anytime the inner critic starts to sort of chatter at you, you can come back to, no, that's
Mhm.
not true. This is how it actually is. And starting to adopt some of those. It's almost like a custom affirmation if you think of it,
Mhm. Mhm.
coming up with those power thoughts that your inner champion can use. And
Yeah.
what you find is like we sort of drown out the inner critic in that area. They always come
Mhm.
back, but they come back in a different way. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
that same process you can continue to repeat, but it's simply just questioning, is that true? No, I don't think
Mhm.
that's true.
Mhm.
Replace it with something better.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. I love that because yes, you're right. It always comes up, and I always tell myself like I must be really getting ready to do something good
Yes.
because as soon as like you get the idea, it's immediate. Like it is immediate, and it's about what, as you say, the inner champion. What is your inner champion's response to it? When it
Hmm.
tells you that, oh, I remember I always tell this story. So people listening, you've heard me say this before, but it's whenever I was thinking about starting this podcast, I wasn't thinking about it, but I think it was divinely sent to me. I heard it said start a podcast, and then immediately the critic was like, nobody wants to hear you. What do you have to talk about?
Yes.
And it was like they were like, as soon as one came, the other came to block it.
Hmm.
And for about a month, I allowed for the critic to stop me from doing it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's nothing I have to talk about. And then eventually it got to this place where I was like, you know what? I don't believe that I'm being given this like a platform to help people to not do it. I mean, like, it's not, because after all, like I tell people, I'm like, it's not about me. It's about the great people that I get to talk to and that I get to bring on and who help my community, who share with my community. So I was like, so you take that, me girl.
Yes, yes. Well, I think you touched on something so important there. It's that moment right before the breakthrough.
Mhm.
It's that moment, like, so what you heard is divine, God, the super conscious,
Mhm.
the super conscious giving you this beautiful idea. And and you wouldn't have that if it wasn't intended to like do something with it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? And so often we get that as a block because your subconscious is really just trying to keep you safe,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And visibility, being visible and putting yourself out there is one of the number one biggest blocks that people have, like a
Mhm.
fear of being seen.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh my God. Yes to all those things, Whitney, because that is so true. Like, you're like, you want to do it. You want to do it.
Mhm.
It's a good idea. You want to help people. And then you're like, oh no, but then that's going to put a spotlight on me.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
it's
it's
so
like
true.
yeah, and it's really hard because I mean, I can only speak from my own personal experience, but that's the exact steps that I was thinking. I'm like, oh my God, then it means I have to put myself out there. And
Mhm.
but then it's like I had to get out of my own way because it was like I'm just the vehicle.
Yes.
Like, it's not about, I mean, it's not about me. I mean, I don't, I think it's great if somebody tells me like, oh yeah, I love your show, and I think you're like a great host. That's great, but I want for people to definitely leave with the value from the guests and people that I interview. Because that's the important part, is because they have a story to tell, and they have stories that can help. They can help people who are
Mhm.
going through or might be on the same journey.
I love it. Well, I think so often, like, we just have to continue to follow the thread, follow the lead, like,
Yeah,
continue to ask for inspiration. Like, if this is
yeah,
not for me, give me a sign. If this is not
yes,
for me, show me the way,
yes.
And so often people are like, maybe I need a signier sign. And that's not it. It's like, you know, you got the sign and now you're expected to do something with it. Right?
I think you have to use that one. You're looking for a signier sign. I
They
love that.
are.
It's so good.
It's
But
like,
but you're right.
think about this. It's like the universe can do all things, God can do all things, but then you say like, "Oh no, actually I'd like you to try harder and give me more confirmation," right?
I mean, I know you already told me 3 times, but can you give me
Yeah,
like just one more? Because that
a
one more is
clearer
going to be
sign.
the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, bigger. And it's
Oh my
funny.
gosh.
I often find if you don't listen to the whispers,
Yeah.
then you get something much bigger, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it's so funny. I had something similar happening to me just this week where I thought, there's an area of my life where I have been playing small and
Mm-hmm,
it has been a comforting place. It's my home. It's my
mm-hmm,
current home.
mm-hmm,
And I moved here during a really difficult time and it's been a place of healing,
mm-hmm,
right? And I came to this place and I was like, maybe I just want to stay here for like a few more years. And I
mm-hmm,
kept getting this little nudge, like to be somewhere else,
mm-hmm.
still in the city, but like somewhere else. I'm like, hearing the nudge, I'm like, I really love it here. I think I'm going to stay for another couple years. And I kid you not, 5 minutes later, I could not open my door. The key would not work.
Oh my gosh.
The master key for the building would not work. Like
Wow.
the universe was like, I see you and
Yeah.
let me give
Yeah.
you a sign to your sign by locking me out for hours.
Oh my gosh. Well, yep, yep. You got to sign your sign.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm moving. But it often is one of
Yeah.
those times when you're like, oh, I'm resisting something
Hmm.
that is going to, get me to my next level, help me
Yes.
expand.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So while we're talking about that, the resisting, right?
Mhm.
What are some other things that may hold people back from living their best lives?
Oh, I mean, we could talk forever. Let's think about some business
Hmm.
ways. Often
Hmm.
I see people like not making offers,
Hmm.
not charging enough money,
Hmm.
not working with the clients that they really want to work with, not offering the things, maybe offering something that they're really great at doing, but
Uh-huh.
it's not their like, greatest gift to the world,
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
like you see a lot of comfort in there.
Hmm.
Um, you see maybe some of the boundaries that they have aren't being held. So they
Hmm.
might have clients who are wild, you know, or someone who's saying like, "Oh, I can only meet with you after hours." And they have
Hmm.
been really intentional about having that time with their family.
Right. Yeah.
So often you can see some of that stuff happening
Hmm.
um, that was on the business side, but on the personal side, like it can also be putting yourself in other people's business. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
so much energy goes into other people. And I
Hmm.
think so often we just get stuck almost in this loop of like, okay, my life is going along, and we don't actually pause long enough to think about what we want for
Hmm.
ourselves, right? We just get wrapped up into sort of the drama of the day and none of it really matters,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? So I'm
Yeah.
always encouraging people like, I think your birthday is a great time. New Year's is a great time. Even today, as you're listening to this is the perfect time, right? We
Mhm.
don't need like a specific day to start and say, this is how I'm going to live my best year yet. We could just
Right.
decide now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just takes a few moments of courage to say, like, I want to create something new.
Mhm.
And what is it that's going to like make this my best year?
Mhm. I love that. Yes, thank you. Thank you for encouraging like now, because I think so many people do have those things tied to
Mhm.
specific times of the year, but it's like anytime's a good time to start again. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. All right. Okay. So I'm going to ask you. I've been having such great conversation with you, and I'm also trying to be respectful of time. So I'm going to ask you about one more area that you focus on, and it's the magic money math system.
Hmm.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So that I described a little bit of it when we
Mhm.
first began. So
Okay.
what I like to do is I like to ask people, this works. I find it works really well with entrepreneurs. With our working group, it's a
Hmm.
little more complex because they are not sort of in full control of the
Hmm.
finances always, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you a couple of examples. But for the entrepreneurs, it is that think of the amount of money that you want to make. Let's
Hmm.
increase it. Double, triple, whatever. Doesn't That part doesn't matter. It's like find an uncomfortable amount is the key message, right?
Hmm.
Find an uncomfortable amount that doesn't seem possible, um, and come up with the hypothetical. I might reach that by doing XYZ,
Hmm.
right? Or a person. Sometimes if someone's really blocked, I'm like, how would a person do it? Right? Because so often we're like, that's not possible for me,
Hmm.
but I could imagine someone else doing it. They could do
Right.
it just
Yeah.
fine. Right. And so that is another little trick if you get stuck and that's not for me. But what I like people to do every month, we have a monthly goal. So we're breaking our year up into months. So you've got a
Hmm.
monthly goal, and your goal is to bring in that amount in cash or sales.
Okay.
And so we're counting both. And what I love about it is so often as entrepreneurs, we'll sell something, and maybe it's like support for an entire year. So let's say
Hmm.
it's $12,000 over the year that someone's going to work with you. And then we do our accounting for the month and we're like, oh, I made $1,000.
Hmm.
That doesn't feel good.
Right.
Versus you made 12,000. You made 12,000 in sales, you just received 1,000 in cash this month.
Hmm.
That's a different energy.
Hmm.
And what I find is when people can wrap their mind around, no, actually, I made 12,000 this month. I just received 1,000 in cash.
Right. Yeah.
If you can wrap your mind around that, then why can't it be 12,000 in cash pay in full? Why can't it be a $12,000 month?
Right.
Why
Hmm.
can't you sell two of those?
Yeah.
Right? All of a sudden it's a $24,000 month.
Hmm.
Okay.
That's a great month. Yeah.
That's a great month.
Yeah.
And now I know there's going to be some finance people picking on me saying, well, no, technically it's just $2,000 in cash. And that's true.
Yeah.
But we're thinking about it as a stacking effect because we're
Mhm.
also saying, like, okay, it makes me feel really good to have this goal. I can sell
Mhm.
$24,000 every month.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, you've got a business that is really picking up speed if
Mhm.
your goal is to sell 24,000 every month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so
Mhm.
that's how magic money math works is like if your mind believes that you can do it, which we did, right?
Mhm.
1,000 is 12,000 is now 24,000, then why can't I sell an offer for 12,000, get it pay in full, 24,000, get it pay in full, or
Mhm.
two pays? Yeah, all of a
Yeah.
sudden your confidence with money starts to your relationship with money starts to feel different. And
Mhm.
the bigger goals are actually what help people break through
Mhm.
because what happens so often is we're like, well, I've never made more than $1,000 a month. So how am I going to make 12? Um,
Right. Yeah.
right. And so it's
Mhm.
really just stretching your mind of like what's possible.
Mhm. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun.
All right. So tell the audience how they can work with you and how to connect to you.
So I'm always hanging out on Instagram. I love it on there. So you can find me on Instagram, Whitney.Alexandra. And then online, I've got a great website. It's whitneyalexandra.co.
All right. Okay, awesome. So now we're going to quickly go into three things with Whitney. I'm going to ask you three questions that helps our audience get to know you a little bit better. Number one is, how do you start and end the day?
Oh, I love this. So I start the day, I do morning pages. So if anyone's familiar with Julia Cameron, it's 3 pages of sort of unedited writing, journaling prompts. And that's where I get like lots of my divine downloads in the morning, or I just get to sort of release
Mhm.
the day that has already happened. And then in the evening, I always have a bath, candle lit bath. It's like sort of one of those things that just like releases the day
Mhm.
and is, like, so good for my sleep. I love it.
Nice. All right. Number two is, what's a goal or an intention you've set for yourself this year?
Ooh, a goal that I have set for myself, I have a really fabulous mastermind. So my goal is to, like, have that fully fully supporting the
Mhm.
entrepreneurs that I have space for. So that's probably my big goal.
Awesome. And last, where are you currently finding inspiration?
Ooh, it's similar to what we were talking about. I've been finding a lot of inspiration just in the divine lately. So,
Mhm.
like, show off for me, universe, give me a lead, show me
Mhm.
like where to go and what to do, and just being open minded on, watching sort of the beauty of the universe unfold, not
Mhm.
asking questions, just
Yeah.
doing, right? Which I think is the key thing. It's like there's
Yeah.
the rational mind that's like, this makes no sense and doing it anyway.
Right. Let's see. And yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Whitney. So one more ask before I let you go. First, I want to just say thank you so much. I've loved this conversation, and the nuggets have been amazing that you share it with the community today. But before I let you leave, can you leave the audience with three things you'd like them to take away from this conversation today?
I love it. Okay, number 1, dream bigger. People do not have big enough dreams. So, like, throw away the rule book, throw away what you think is possible or what life has looked like up until this point, and dream as big as you possibly can. Number 1. Number 2, make more money. I think that we should all have a goal to make more money every year. And so whether that's in business, a side hustle, it's like know what your worth is and just continue to ask for more, find more, be open to more, and be open to those scary opportunities where people see the value that you could provide and you just haven't seen that for yourself yet.
I love it. I love it. All really great. Yes, definitely dream, dream, dream. I love that. I always say dream big. I mean, I always feel like I'm like, my dreams are like, my husband's like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, I mean, I know they can happen. It can happen.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Well, Whitney, thank you so much again. Thank you for spending time with us. And you can always come back here in the future.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.